Good morning and welcome. Hello, my name is Ted Holsey. I'm Vice President of Marketing at eFolder and your host for today's event. Welcome to the eFolder Expert Series. This webinar series brings together experts from eFolder's staff and partner community for deep dive discussions on key service and technical topics. The topic for today's webinar is BDR Neutrality, how one partner leverages Dell AppAssure and StorageCraft to span the SMB market. Today we are joined by Neil Hawkins, Chief Technology Officer for Lanair Group. Before we go through today's agenda, let's go over a few housekeeping items. Today's session is being recorded. The recorded version of the webinar will be posted on eFolder's YouTube channel. We will also make copies of the slides available to those who attended the event. With over 175 people registered for today's session, we have put all participants in listen-only mode. You can enjoy the audio portion of today's event by either streaming it to your computer or by dialing in over the phone. Questions are strongly encouraged throughout today's session. We have planned a special Q&A section at the end of today's discussion, but you may submit them as we go along, and we will try to address your questions on the fly. Neil is going to share his views on the relative technical merits of StorageCraft ShadowProtect versus Dell AppAssure, and then give some insights into the relative cost and pricing approaches for each service offering. And lastly, Neil will explain how Lanair is leveraging both solutions to grow their business. Now, let me introduce today's guest. Neil Hawkins is Partner, Chief Operating Officer, and Senior Engineer. Under his technical leadership and management, the team of highly skilled engineers and technicians at Lanair address a vast array of disciplines. These initiatives include managed services, central data management, IP telephony, IT security, and application development and support. Neil, welcome to today's webinar.
Thanks, Ted. I appreciate the introduction. I wanted to sit down and go over a little bit of this this topic here on BDR. One of the problems we had at Lanair is actually finding a BDR solution that met all aspects of all businesses we were supporting. We went to try to put every customer we served in a box, caused some confusion for us, our staff, our support, accounting throughout the entire company. So we decided to use eFolder as a source, as a portal to be able to manage ShadowProtect and AppAssure. With ShadowProtect, we found that we could get in quickly to small customers, keep the costs low, keep the backup through the cloud easily with eFolder, and also have continuity based on their current solution. The thing we liked about AppAssure, the thing that we liked about StorageCraft was the fact that it was easily managed. It wasn't a solution out there that we had to complicate training to our staff, to our help desk, and to the end user. We usually use this eFolder BDR or the StorageCraft solution with a managed-only solution. However, we do have customers now coming to us with non-managed solutions for this type. We have one of the biggest reasons we chose StorageCraft was because of the reliable backups, the fast recovery options, and the flexible operation it had. We noticed that when we install StorageCraft out there by itself, as well as the backups, as well as the back customer client data up well, we could not get standard reporting off it through some type of global portal. So that's why we've integrated it with eFolder to do the off-site replication. The thing that's nice about the eFolder portal is it checks the change, it checks the consistency, and it checks the recovery mode of each file as it's being pulled over to eFolder. We noticed too on ShadowProtect the speed. We were using, I think we used 3 or 4 other solutions in the past, and most of these came off of Zenith Infotech, as I'm sure most of you guys are aware or have used in the past. We've converted many of these Zenith BDR products over to ShadowProtect, knowing that it's a similar solution, but as we've done this, we found out that the complexity has decreased and the backup reliability has increased tenfold. It's taken the complication off from our help desk, knowing that they can manage the server as a standard server and it's not locked down as much. We have been given documents directly from eFolder on specific best practices to build it, and the recovery times we have found have been quicker, knowing that the support from knowing that we can get support directly from ShadowProtect or from eFolder directly with standard recovery options. We find out that eFolder has implemented a virtual boot scenario, allows us to actually go through and pull a snapshot as of a date and time for fast recovery. So similar to what you would have with standard StorageCraft, we can go back 10 days, 15 days, 20 days, 30 days to immediately recover files of that type or that when that snapshot took place for that day. We found out too that when we have integrated eFolder BDR, they've got a VirtualBox virtual boot center that allows us to actually migrate images through a virtual converter to either VMware or to a separate file to actually boot that box on a separate image. The thing that's nice about it is the cost still stays low. You're not having to integrate with 2 or 3 different parties to actually get the box up and running. I noticed in the past that when we were using Zenith, we had issues where we would boot the box wouldn't run properly because there wasn't enough memory, or the I/O, the performance in the box wouldn't be able to keep up with the booted image or the VM that was booted after it was restored. They've integrated with ShadowProtect Image Manager, and the ShadowProtect Image Manager they've integrated with the version that is actually free, so there's no fee involving an image manager, but allows us to consolidate, verify, and notify when a chain is broken, a link is broken, or the backup fails. Let me move on here to the next slide. So, Ted, I'm not sure if you want to explain this pricing here with eFolder directly.
Yeah, sure. Why don't I do that? Because I think it's really important to kind of understand how eFolder prices and packages the eFolder BDR solution with ShadowProtect before Neil kind of talks about the economics and how he takes it to market. I also want to remind everyone in the audience that if you have questions, I'm monitoring the Q&A log as we go along, and we'll interject when Neil's talking and ask him your questions live. So please use the Q&A log if you have any questions that are showing up right now. So just to give kind of a flavor, so Neil's spending time sharing his view on the relative technical merits of each of these solutions, but it's also important to understand how the wholesale pricing works. There's really 3 components to how eFolder prices the BDR solution with ShadowProtect to our partners. First of all, you have the cost of the appliance. The appliances range anywhere from $1,500 up to around $7,000, and that's an upfront price. That pays for the cost of the appliance. And then there is also important a $75 per hard drive surcharge that's still in effect due to the relative shortage of hard drives due to the Thailand flooding. That's come down from $150 just a couple months ago. So first of all, you've got the cost of the appliance. Now, most partners choose the managed services model to pay for the software. So the software costs $20 per server per month, or $5 per desktop per month. That's what most of our partners are selecting to do today. On the other hand, you could buy the perpetual license, and it starts at $575 at 1 unit cost. Then the other components of the price is that the partner pays eFolder $40 per month per location for the BDR service, and that includes 150 gigabytes of offsite storage. And then if there's, for every gigabyte above the 150 gigabytes, it's 30 to 20 cents per gig, depending on your what level you are in our program and your overall volume with eFolder. So you've got the cost of the appliance, the cost of the software, the cost of the service, and the service has a fixed and a variable component. So that's how we price eFolder BDR with ShadowProtect to eFolder partners. The other thing to note is, Neil mentioned the eFolder Continuity Cloud. The Continuity Cloud was launched around 45 days ago, and the Continuity Cloud is generally available, and it allows partners, whether you're using eFolder BDR with ShadowProtect or AppAssure or eFolder backup for file and folder, you can restore images or files into this continuity cloud and bring up servers on an emergency or as-needed basis in the eFolder cloud. And the way we price that is it's $150 per week for the medium node and for $450 per week for the large node. And that's the wholesale price to your organization, to the partner organization, and you can restore 1 client or 10 clients or do a test for 1 client or 10 clients or 20 clients, however many you have or need to do, either in a testing scenario or on an emergency. And that's how the continuity cloud works. So there's a lot of other content that addresses the details around the continuity cloud. It's really not that germane to today's conversation. But in any event, Neil, I think that gives kind of a good overview, I hope, on the pricing. And I'll turn it back over to you.
So one of the questions we had was from a standpoint of when do you deploy ShadowProtect, when do you deploy AppAssure, when do you deploy other products? And one of the reasons we chose to go with eFolder for these solutions is the fact that we could use different engine on different types of scenarios to be able to produce the best result for the customer. From a ShadowProtect standpoint, we've decided internally, and many of you may say other, but we decided to use the ShadowProtect solution, the eFolder BDR solution, for any client site that has under 6 servers and less than 5 terabytes. We also chose to use this at single location sites, and this is purely because of the fact of the compression that AppAssure provides over top of ShadowProtect, but it also, there's a reason to ShadowProtect also is because of the pricing. The pricing structure on ShadowProtect differs due to the fact that you have a site fee, whereas AppAssure you don't have a site fee. So this is just what we've come to. We've used almost 7 or 8 backup solutions now over the past 6 years, and we've just come to find out that this has been the best case scenario for our needs. So after ShadowProtect, we had to find something to say, okay, what are we going to support for a larger customer base? Most of you guys know now that AppAssure was purchased by Dell just recently. We were on AppAssure. We've been on AppAssure about 18 months now through the hard times they've had, as well as now the takeover from Dell. We've discovered that AppAssure, the image replication and the application protection on AppAssure is supreme from a backup standpoint. When we start getting into, as I said in the last slide, we start getting into the point we get over 6 servers, we end up going to AppAssure due to the fact of the compression and the speed it takes backups in, but also because of the application protection. When you get more than 6 servers, you're usually dealing with major SQL servers. You're usually dealing with clients with not only one Exchange server, maybe multiple Exchange servers, SharePoint solutions, other accounting packages. The way AppAssure works, if you put agents on the specific servers, it takes snapshots to the core, and then the core backs up each separate device, each separate agent to the AppAssure cloud. We initially did this by ourselves at first. We had a AppAssure core in our data center and found out that the risk was just too great for our business to run to host that locally. So going to eFolder Storage Cloud, we actually found out that, or the eFolder AppAssure Cloud, we found out that our cost actually decreased over the life of the system versus what we were doing internally for. Thus, the reason for our eFolder. The AppAssure, why go to AppAssure over ShadowProtect? One of the main reasons is the integrity checks. We found out that on Exchange, as well as StorageCraft or eFolder integrates with granular email recovery or granular mailbox recovery. In StorageCraft, the AppAssure actually checks the integrity of the database while it's being backed up, not only from Exchange but also SQL and SharePoint. So you got chain for retention policies you can set, and you can do global dedupe on all the servers at the same time. Now, the thing we've discovered too is, if you guys haven't used AppAssure, it's something to check out. On your larger Exchange database or SQL database, you can actually do a live restore. In other words, you can take Exchange database that fails, you can actually mount the Exchange database and do an online recovery of the database. So you're not waiting for the database to recover. You're actually able to use that database in the recovery process while it's being recovered back to the same server. But the fact that you can do integrity checks on those Exchange and SQL databases a pretty significant part of why we chose AppAssure for our larger solutions. We've got systems now supporting well over 10 terabyte on AppAssure, and we've got some solutions actually below the 5 terabyte mark that we presented in a previous slide here, but purely because of the significance of the application integrity check that we need to run on those clients. So an example here, you see some examples of the settings in Exchange and SQL here. The mountability checks, not only does it do the integrity, but the mountability and the checksums. And for the SQL, does the attachability and mount checks for the SQL Server too.
So Neil, before we kind of advance on that, I mean, why is this feature so important? Why is this capability so important for your business and for your techs?
Yeah, one of the main reasons is as those of you on the line, you guys understand the difference of truncated logs versus non-truncated logs. And when you get to a point where you're on an Exchange server and those logs are not being truncated, that Exchange server will fill up to a point where it can't even be managed. And then if you have a failure in your database, you end up having to go through many of those logs to actually do the restore of the database. So check the truncation feature is huge, but also the mountability check. There's been times when we've been backing up through Backup Exec or other products. We back up an Exchange database just for the purpose of backing it up, but the mountability check isn't there or the checksum check isn't there. So even though you've got a good backup, you really can't do a restore of the backup you've taken. So that's the main reason. So the truncating the logs are premium importance, but also the mountability check to ensure that it's actually a good database with the proper checksum is very important.
Great.
So retention policy. This is a nice feature. AppAssure allows roll-ups, as well as ShadowProtect does, but AppAssure offers a little different scenario on the roll-ups, where StorageCraft will actually do roll-ups from a given point in time. You end up having to reseed or setting up a new chain of that data every 18 months, 36 months, or whenever your liking desires. Where AppAssure does, you can actually set that roll-up for a specific point in time and always pull that roll-up in. So your last known good image may be only 3 months back, so you're not sitting back on 36 months of data. The fact that you can actually change the hour, day, week, month, and year recovery points on this is a huge feature when you get the larger clients. When you get over that 6 servers and some of the scenarios we're in, we've got 40 or 50 servers we're backing up in one scenario, you're forced to set up your retention policies. When you get into SOX compliance, HIPAA compliance, a lot of times you're forced to keep different types of recovery points for specific weeks. And it is truly change-free retention policies. The global dedupe, but Ted, do you want to go into this, or do you want me to continue to speak about the global dedupe?
Well, yeah, I mean, deduplication and compression. I think just maybe talk about your experience with deduplication and compression with larger data sets, because I think that's where it has the biggest impact.
Yeah. So this is one of the reasons we've chosen AppAssure too. When you get into a larger data set, and I mentioned larger data sets. When you get into above the 10 terabyte, 20 terabyte, sometimes 50, 60 terabyte, if you're just backing up raw data, the amount of storage you would need to actually back up that would almost be 3 times the amount of storage you have on site to keep the chain going over a period of 90 days. Most of our customers now are requesting 30 days backup. The medical centers are 90 days, and some of the public locations are up to 6 months. When you're doing that on raw data, the physical amount of storage you need is absolutely ridiculous. You just can't back it up in today's environment, especially with the changes being made in the raw deltas when you get above that 40, 50 terabytes. So AppAssure allows you to do the compressed data and the dedupe data to actually be able to just make the back up the changes or the deltas for that data to a specific point in time. The data is deduped globally across all cores and all BDRs with the same encryption key. So instead of actually where StorageCraft will actually take data and actually set a different encryption key for each backup, when you back up off-site with AppAssure, it actually takes everything into one encryption key and then sends it over to the AppAssure cloud. That is, from a standpoint of performance, that when you get up to above that 10 server mark or 50 terabyte mark, that is going to increase what we've seen backup times off-site almost 20 times on a performance standpoint as far as speed. So when we were sending data from Los Angeles actually to Atlanta in a scenario for a customer backup on a site-to-site BDR solution, where we were spending almost, I think it was 16 hours to back up a data set. When we introduced AppAssure in the solution to that situation, that backup time reduced from that 16 hours down to a little over 4 hours with the same amount of data and the deltas that were being backed up. So very important for dedupe data and compressed data, especially highly compressed data.
Right. I think if we go back, just I think it makes sense to make another comment. Some of you may have looked at AppAssure, a while ago, and may not be as familiar with the version 5 feature set. But AppAssure several months ago released version 5, and one of the key features in version 5 is encryption. And encryption wasn't a huge deal in the first couple versions of AppAssure because there were a lot of the replication, offsite replication that was being done were kind of inside the corporate firewall for clients that have geographically diverse data centers. But when you go to when you start driving these solutions into the SMB market, the sub 100 employee space, you really have data center consolidation. Most of these clients will only have one data center, and then you're replicating off-site to a public cloud environment like eFolder. That's where encryption becomes really important. And the really cool thing is that this deduplication we're talking about here is happening on encrypted data, which is a really cool part of the solution. So you're getting the benefits of data privacy and security because the encryption, the built-in encryption in a public cloud scenario, but you're also still getting the benefits of deduplication across all the cores. So I think, Neil, a couple questions that just came across. So Chris wants to know, the question is, we either get AppAssure or StorageCraft, 2 separate options, correct? And I'll just quickly tackle that one, but yeah, the answer is yes. Today, partners can select the eFolder BDR solution with ShadowProtect or the eFolder Cloud with AppAssure solution. So, one comes bundled with an appliance today, the other does not, but we plan on introducing an appliance in the future. But in any event, you can leverage the eFolder Cloud and utilize either of these software solutions to do the server imaging and snapshots, and then integrate them with the eFolder Cloud and then manage them from one global perspective. One other question that came through just when we talked about pricing on the previous slide when we were looking at ShadowProtect pricing, Robert asks, the BDR software license, does that include ShadowProtect software? And the answer is yes. So it's $20 per server. So you put a ShadowProtect software on each server, and that's $20 per server per month wholesale to your organization. That looks like, Peter wants to know, can we get copies of the slides? Yes, we will be supplying everybody who attended copies of the slides. And then I guess, why don't we go to the next slide and just kind of talk about the pricing. Neil, do you want me to kind of go through this real quick?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so the way eFolder, prices the eFolder Cloud for AppAssure on a wholesale basis is, first of all, there's a software component and then a cloud component. And like Neil mentioned earlier, the thing that's different here is that there's no per-site fee. So again, generally speaking, you're going to be dealing with larger, medium-sized clients or more sophisticated clients that may have a, larger infrastructure, multiple locations. So you're not paying for each location. So that's where you start to see some economies, some good economies of the solution when you're in multi-site locations. But the two basic components is the software. It's $50 per server per month. And to get started, you can source the software either from Dell or from eFolder. And whomever you source the software from, that's who you go to for telephone-based technical support. So that's one important consideration, right? But it's basically whether you source from eFolder or you source from Dell, it's a minimum of 10 servers, and it's $50 per server per month. And then there's the cloud component. And basically you pay $20 per 100 gigabytes, which is basically effectively 20 cents a gig. And to get started, you need to start with a minimum of $100 per month or 500 gigabytes. That's the minimum wholesale amount. And what you do is you basically, as you build a growing client base, you simply manage the amount of cloud-based storage you need with eFolder for all of the clients that you're replicating to the eFolder cloud. Again, continuity cloud pricing is similar. I mean, it's exactly the same as what we talked about with eFolder BDR for ShadowProtect. It's exactly the same. The only difference here is if you are on this program, you get, no matter what happens, you get 1 week included per year of the medium continuity cloud. You can use it in emergency. You can use it for testing. You can use it whenever you need it, but you get 1 week free. It's just an added feature we put on this solution, and then additional weeks are $150 per week. So that's how the pricing works. Let me turn it back over to Neil, and you can kind of talk about your typical use cases for the AppAssure solution.
So AppAssure, we had talked before about StorageCraft being under six servers, less than 5 terabyte. Of course, AppAssure can just go the exact opposite. This is a typical use case scenario. Again, you go servers over five servers, over 5 terabyte in multiple locations. The reason we've chosen that is personal preference to us. The manageability of more data on AppAssure is easier for us. The site fee was different for us. We found out that there's kind of a break-even point when you get to that 5 or 6 server mark, depending upon the number of locations you have. With the customer, from the client standpoint, you pay $50 per server on one hand, you pay $20 per site on another hand. So by the time you add them up, based on sites, it becomes pretty equal. And usually when you get over that 5 terabyte or that over 5 server mark, you end up dealing with much different type of application integrity from Exchange, SQL, SharePoint scenarios. So again, this is our typical use case. Not you guys may decide to use something similar or different. So this is how we've priced it out internally, and this is right off of our book. So a couple different scenarios here, a small client and a medium client scenario. So from a 1 terabyte, 4 servers, 1 location, ShadowProtect, we priced out at unmanaged $700 a month, managed approximately $1,000 a month. So you see in that 4 server scenario, there's approximately a $300 fee for the 4 servers. Now what we do internally is we price it out on a per server basis. So at 4 servers, you're looking at about $75 a server on top of all the other fees. Now the $1,000 also includes markup not only for the data. We seem to be able to get approximately 60 cents to $1 per gig off-site data. It really depends on the customer, what type of data they're backing up and such. But those are approximate numbers. $700 for unmanaged, $1,000 for a month for managed. And then on the AppAssure, you can see on the small client why we don't use it. It gets significantly more. You're talking $900 a month and $1,200 a month. That $1,200 a month, of course, equates to $2,400 a year for a client. And sometimes that goes up above that because usually you're not backing up 4 servers with AppAssure, but that's an idea. Medium client, when it gets above that 8 server mark or 6 server mark, we don't even quote them ShadowProtect. We go right to AppAssure, and the managed version would sell them at about approximately $1,500 a month. From a standpoint of, I can tell you real quick, on 8 servers, 3 locations, that number there, Ted, is off a little bit. That 4 terabyte 8 servers, 3 locations, would be managed approximately $2,500 a month for that on AppAssure. That's approximately what we're getting, and we haven't had any pushback from the customer. When you get to that 4 terabyte of data and you're replicating off-site, the question comes to the customer is how much data do they want to keep? They want to keep 3 months? Do they want to keep 6 months? A year of data? You know, everybody wants to keep a year of data until they find out how much it costs to put it off-site. So just some ideas here for you guys to use down the road.
Yeah, and one thing that's real important on this slide is that on this slide here, these are the approximate retail prices that Lanair is charging their clients, right? So we went through the wholesale economics, you know, earlier for the 2 different solutions, and then, you know, using the rough margin goals and markups and that Lanair uses, this is how he arrives at, you know, rough quotations for clients like these, right? So I just want to make sure that that's clear, that people aren't confusing these with wholesale prices.
This pricing too, guys, is around, we're trying to hit about a 50-point gross margin on these. So it's going to really depend on how much time it takes your service desk to support them, how much time you're spending a month. But we've done, before we rolled this out, we've spent a significant amount of time training our service desk with very detailed process. Here's what happens when you get this alert. Here's what we do. Here's how we escalate. Here's how much time it sits on level 1, level 2, level 3 before it's taken care of. And that's taken a bunch of the guessing out of troubleshooting these devices. We've had some device where we convert old Zenith BDRs into eFolder BDRs. It's called a standalone BDR or build your own BDR. In other cases, we're looking at pulling eFolder solution into our client space. So we found out that our personal preferences when we buy any future AppAssure licenses, we'll be buying it directly through eFolder because of the support that eFolder provides over top of even AppAssure directly. So just personal preference.
Yeah, and there's a good question. Mark wants to know if we already have AppAssure licensing, do we need to renew them with eFolder moving forward? And again, the choice is yours. If you have clients, if you have AppAssure licenses deployed today, you can start replicating to eFolder, provided you join our partner program. And to join the partner program, you just need to basically make that $100 minimum per month commitment. But you can continue to renew maintenance through Dell if you wished, or you can and continue to source licenses through Dell, or you could source them from eFolder. And it just on a per license basis, what's important is where you're going to go to get telephone-based, you know, ongoing support. So. Anyway, Mark, hopefully that answers that question. And Neil, back to you.
Okay. So this next slide is, and this is the old version of the portal, Ted. It doesn't look like he's got a picture of the new portal here, but this here is one of the main reasons we use eFolder for. This portal that they have, and again, guys, this is showing the old version of the portal. The new version of the portal is a little bit cleaner than this, but this is the reason. We can go to one spot, no matter what backup we're using, and be able to see a live relay of exactly what's being backed up, when the last backup happened. Was it successful? Was there an error? Was a chain broken? Was there a link broken? Was there an application integrity problem? All from one location. So this here is, to me, from our service desk manager standpoint and myself, this is one of the best reasons to get on eFolder. Now, I know in some of the competitors out there in the market offer something similar. What we found out is there's sometimes when the competitors say that there's a good backup and there's actually not a good backup. This, I have 100% confidence that when it's green, I know dang sure that it's green. I know that there's no problem with the backup. And when it's red, I got an issue. When there's yellow, it's usually disk warning. We're getting close to within 80% of total usage that we've set up for the end client or for the end user. But this here is the reason. What's nice about this too is they've got it set. eFolder's got it set where it's not an email directly to your, depending upon your guys' PSA system, but they got alerts set up in here that actually alert off of the backup itself. If you have an error, you can actually, because for those of you using ConnectWise, you can actually link it directly to ConnectWise through the API as a ticket. If you use another monitoring systems or other PSA management tools, you can actually link this directly to that through email or public folder or however you guys use that PSA management tool. But this here is the highlight of one of the reasons we use eFolder. It's just dead on accurate. It's the only system we found out there that is accurate. What's nice is this is brandable. And Ted, I don't know if I can show them ours if you want here.
I can, let's see here, I can give you, if you would like to do that, I can give you, let's see here, what do I need to do here? I need to, I'm going to make you the presenter.
Sure.
And then you should be able to do a screen share. And we didn't test this beforehand, everybody, so just hang tight here.
Yeah, let me get... You should be able to see that?
Let's see. Just got to move the Q&A log away. But, yeah, we can see your browser, exactly.
So this is what we've done personally. So we have a site that's now directly set up for our backup.lanairgroup.com. We log in, and I'll log in quickly because I know a lot of this data here is confidential. I'll log in to kind of give you a brief idea. The clients have access to this. When they log in, of course, they see their information. The new interface, which I was showing you guys, is here. It's a little different than what they have, but you get an idea. And I won't show them all, but you get a quick idea of what's listed, what's green, what's red, what type of service plan there are, when it's expired, quotas, all that information. So just some stuff you guys can use down the road, but highly integratable, highly brandable from our standpoint. So highly suggested as far as portal, best portal we've used on the market yet. Ted, you can send me back to the slide.
Yeah, I'm gonna. So let's see here. Okay, we just go back here. But yeah, I mean, I think the other comment to make here is that you know, what you're seeing on the slide in front of you, I mean, the beauty of this is that you are able to manage all eFolder services from a single pane of glass. So today we've really focused the conversation around eFolder BDR with ShadowProtect and AppAssure. And you know, first of all, we're the only public cloud replication option for AppAssure. And second, I mean, what's the beauty of it is you can manage and deploy both of these solutions and then leverage the eFolder portal for global management of both of these solutions. So literally, you know, you have clients side by side there on a single pane of glass with all the alerting and reporting information that you need to manage these things over time. So, and as you scale your business up, that's critical. That's the name of the game to keep your labor costs low.
Something too, Ted, that we took in when we started building this out again. Guys, we built this out in our own data center. We had our own data center that we do other stuff, and then we added storage to see if we could build our own backup core there. And as much as your initial insight or your instinct would actually say that it's cheaper, less expensive to do that, what many people forget is the risk involved in doing that. One, you're outlaying an abundance of cash. Whether you do a white box or black box for storage, or you're using a Ecologic compelling solution, or however you're doing your storage, the costs get pretty significant. But not only that, but when you start equating the risk of losing someone's data, because it's going to happen. Something's going to happen where that data center is going to go down, and you take on the risk, and that what would soon be a lawsuit known to you because that data is no longer there. That's what presented us back to eFolder. So now that we're doing with eFolder, we're looking at about a 12% savings on an annual basis going from our own data center to eFolder.
Yeah, and I think it's everything, and not everything, but so many things in IT and in managed services are make or buy decisions, right? That's natural. And really there's a huge amount of software integration value we bring to the table, but really you can't really underestimate just the power of having a massive storage cloud that you've been operating for several years and you've gotten to petabyte scale. That's how we're able to get the kind of economics where we're able to be exclusively a wholesale player serving the managed services community, and do so very profitably, right? And to pass on wholesale prices to you that let you turn around and make anywhere between 50 to 75% recurring gross margins. So, we kind of view it as a win-win type partnership in the channel. And our unique vision is to operate an open storage cloud, right? To continue to invest in the scale of our cloud environment and the economics of it that allow you to make high amounts of profit, but to really not get into kind of religious debates about what software solutions are plugging into this cloud environment. And really the best part of that, the best way to have that conversation right now is to kind of compare ShadowProtect with AppAssure and to show that you can use either of these solutions depending on the right client need. So that kind of concludes the formal slides we wanted to share today. There's a whole bunch of questions backed up in the Q&A log. Let's try to start tackling those. And as you have more questions, please continue to put them in here because we only have 15 more minutes of Neil's time. So Ben wants to know, and why don't I'll back up there in a second here, but on the retail pricing model slide, Neil, did that price reflect pricing for offsite data transfer or only licensing and managed services? And then he's got a follow-on. Am I to understand that you get 60 cents to $1 per gig for offsite? Is this pre or post compression? So a couple follow-up questions, but let's do this. Let's go back to that slide. Let's see, you're comparing the economics. This slide here. So you want to tackle those?
Yeah, we don't charge on compression. We charge on actual data we're backing up. So that's what's helped us a little bit too. Is as much as AppAssure gets compressed, we charge up front on how much data they're backing up. If they say they want, AppAssure will provide it on the, let's say, the ShadowProtect solution. They'll provide up to 150 gig per site. So on a situation like this where they have 1 terabyte, a backup, that means we're backing up 850 gigs. So in that scenario where there's one site, 4 servers, and 1 terabyte, we're assuming that there's a full 1 terabyte of data. That's 1 terabyte non-compressed we're backing up, and yeah, we do get 60 cents. But we wrap it up as an entire solution. We don't just bill it as 60 cents or a markup. We take the entire solution we offer on a monthly basis and mark the solution up to a 50-point margin. So as well as you may get 60 or 70 cents with that, you may only get 30 cents for the product itself and then 50 cents for the service. So it equates to about 50% GM.
Right, and again, just on the most fundamental level, these price points here these are like an approximate all-in monthly bill that includes the offsite component.
Yeah, except for that AppAssure one, that bottom right-hand corner is off. That's
okay. Well, all right. So it would be higher. It would be higher than that.
It'd be higher. Yeah, our standard would be about $2,500 a month for that solution. And for 4 terabyte, 8 servers, 3 different locations, it'd be about $2,500 a month on that. And we get a little pushback because they start saying, well, let's go out and buy a solution. When they start going out looking at buying the backup exec or another solution on top of it, it beats it. That's for a fully managed solution, $2,500 a month. You can't beat it.
Okay. Let's see here. So I think we probably answered this one, but Mark wants to know, do we need separate eFolder accounts for StorageCraft and AppAssure, or can we combine that $100 a month to start including them both? The answer to that question, Mark, is no. You just need one kind of global wholesale relationship, one partner relationship with eFolder. And to get started, you would just need to make a minimum $100 commitment per month recurring. But yeah, you don't need to. There's no. I mean, I think as Neil showed in his quick tour of his own portal environment, and we showed in that screenshot, you have one relationship with eFolder. You're able to manage all of our different services there, and to get started, you would need to make that $100 a month minimum commitment. Let's see here. So just to kind of go back, because there was one question, David wants to know, with the increased performance, better dedupe, better version control, why are you not using AppAssure for all of your clients? I think we kind of answered that, but why don't you take another stab at that, Neil?
Yeah, we use it for all clients above 5 servers. When you go, again, it really depends on the applications that are there. On a 4-server customer or a 5-server customer, a lot of them will have hosted exchange now. When you're talking about that 25-user shop, we don't have too many shops anymore on 25 users that have internal exchange servers. It just doesn't make sense for them. So we really evaluate, again, typical scenario is below 5 servers, below 6 servers, we use ShadowProtect. When you're talking that 1 terabyte or that less than 5 terabyte, and the compression that StorageCraft gives compared to AppAssure, it's not much difference. Where we see a big difference is when you start getting into application integrity, application backups, truncation of logs, dedupe and compression on top of large SQL Exchange databases, large amounts of data. So for us, we've chosen to use AppAssure on the larger client set. AppAssure is a little bit more complex to understand from a standpoint of backups, and the seeding's a little differently. Seeding's a little different when you start seeding large amounts of data like that. So that to us, when you start putting AppAssure out there to an 8-server, 3-site deal, it becomes a project. StorageCraft can be done on a simple ticket in the middle of the day for a customer. So that's our typical scenario. Again, we've chosen not to use AppAssure across some of our smaller customers. Usually is because they don't have those large applications in-house. Of course, we've been in situations where we've got small customers, 3-server deal, they've got large exchange, large SQL database, 3-server deal, and we'll put AppAssure in there. But I hope that answers the question. We've just chosen.
Yeah, and I think the thing that if you can handle the the additional amount of complexity potentially of having your techs trained on both solutions, it gives you infinite flexibility in how you address client needs. Number one, and really, there is price and value does matter as you get down to smaller, really small clients. So if you have small clients, some of them simply don't need some of the features that you find in the AppAssure solution, and you really wouldn't want to find yourself trying to jam that down, jam that solution in there at the price point that you'd have to charge to make a really good, healthy profit. So, on a wholesale basis, the solutions are priced differently, and there's really good applicability for each of them, and really good, reliable performance from each of them for the kind of clients you're trying to serve. So, David, different question around just the minimums on the AppAssure licenses. So David wants to know, is the 10-server minimum per client or across all BDR clients? And the answer is it's across all BDR clients. So it's simply a matter of whether you go to Dell or you go to eFolder to get started, you need to make a minimum of a minimum 10-server commitment. And you could split that up across 3 clients or across 1 client. It doesn't matter. I guess a related question is on the server pricing, is that physical or virtual? And it's either. So it's for either a physical server or a virtual machine. And what you're paying for is the agent that's running on the machine that's being backed up. There's no charge for the core software, which you put on, a local server today. And in the future, there will also be an eFolder BDR appliance that we will bundle with the solution as well, but that's not available today. So you do need to, all the clients that Neil's talking about, they've put in their own server to serve as that. I guess it's always useful to get a picture. Let me just, you do need to deploy the core, the local core in the client environment yourself today. Neil, you want to talk about what you're doing there from a hardware perspective generally?
Yeah, we're a Dell partner. So those who are Dell partners, we use the Dell PowerEdge R510. Usually deck it out with 12 drives, and so you can put 24 terabyte of space in there. When it gets above that, we're using an EqualLogic 4000 series bolt onto there, or we'll use, for low-end storage, we use a company locally in Southern California called Aberdeen, and that's just pure backup. It's not, it's used for pure backup. If you want very reliable application type backups where you can run VMs off, I would suggest going EqualLogic or an R510.
Great. So just a question around software versions. DJ wants to know, it's my understanding from StorageCraft that eFolder is using an outdated version of ShadowProtect. Is that correct? And what is the current version supported? So the high-level answer to that is, I got something going in the background here. Boy, it's really getting noisy there. Let me, pardon me. So the answer to that question is, eFolder, if you are sourcing either of these software solutions from eFolder, you are guaranteed to have the current release of the software. It's, again, it's a part of our philosophy as a company that we are not going to enter into wholesale, OEM agreements with any software partners if we do not have access to the latest and greatest code. So you'll never find yourself back revved, when you're sourcing software from eFolder. So, let's see here, a different question around the Continuity Cloud. Kim wants to know, how does the Continuity Cloud, Continuity Cloud is $150 per week. Is this per server as used? I guess the question is it per server or is it for the whole environment? And basically it's for the whole environment. So when you provision a Continuity Cloud node, you can use that environment to do, for instance, testing for 10 clients, over a course of a couple days. You can use it to do the restoration, emergency restoration of a single client. So really what's going to drive whether you want to provision a medium node or a large node is going to be, depending on how much RAM and logical storage you need, which is going to be driven by what you're doing with it. And, if it's a whole bunch of clients, you probably go step up to the large node. But that $150 per week is wholesale to your organization, the partner organization, and you can service 1 or 10 clients. It doesn't really matter, or as many as you need with that environment. And that's what really makes the Continuity Cloud pricing quite unique, is we don't require any minimums, first of all. So you could have a single AppAsssure deployment, or you could have a single BDR deployed, and you have access to this service. We don't require, any, 1 terabyte commitment. We don't require any other commitment to access that service. It's $150 a week wholesale. And, we don't charge higher per gig fees for the various services to get access to that service offering as well. So, and it's on an emergency as needed basis, so you're only going to pay for it when you need it. Okay, so let's dive back into the Q&A log here. So how does eFolder address initially seeding large amounts of data off-site, say 500 gigabytes or more? That's what Ben wants to know. And you can ship us physical media, NAS or USB drives, and we will seed the data. On either of these services, we can pre-seed the cloud environment for your data, and the turnaround time is 48 hours. That's our service level commitment to you on that. So let's see here. Just glancing through. So kind of a technical question, Neil. When you were going through the portal, Robert wanted to know, if a broken chain is detected, are there any options to recover that besides reseeding?
A broken chain is detected. There's no options in the portal directly to fix, but you can go into that's a good question, but it's kind of, as you know, the chain, there can be several different ways a chain is broken. It could be the fact that a new chain was started. A new chain was started and it's detecting the old chain. So on the portal it may say, it may show the error, but the chain is broken, but there was a new chain started, so you can actually go back and reapply those backups to the old chain to actually get them run again, so you don't have to reseed. If something happens where a chain is broken, you're going to have to reseed. I don't know a way around that, but 90% of the time I've seen with StorageCraft. The AppAssure, we've never really dealt with that issue because you can actually always roll up the images to actually get a new seed. The older one, on StorageCraft, I mean, you can, we've only been in a situation once where we've ever had to reseed data, and that's because they physically lost the data. They physically lost the data. What we do with the eFolder solution, which you guys know too, that device we use to seed data, we actually pull back in and run it locally. So we take a local eFolder backup as well as an offsite backup. So you'll have an eFolder storage, the eFolder BDR there. You're backing up your data from your servers to your eFolder BDR. We have a USB drive we're running to run that initial seed to. We keep it on there. We continue to update that seed on that USB drive as well as to the cloud. That local USB drive is kind of like a test offsite application to the cloud. So that's worked pretty well for us. That's another reason why we use it under 5 terabyte. It's pretty difficult to get cost-effective 5 terabyte solutions locally.
Okay, so great. And then kind of a different question. Can you talk a little bit about how you use, how do you use the eFolder portal and expose? Do you expose any reporting to your clients themselves?
We expose all of it. We actually give them full access to the eFolder portal. The eFolder portal now is locked down specific on their side from a read standpoint to just be able to see the amount of data they're backing up, be able to reset user accounts, what their quota is. They don't have access to go through and actually change their quotas. If they do want to change their quotas, they usually email us, and then we would set up, we would up it for them.
Right, and that, so Mark, the other related question was, is it multi-tenant friendly, meaning, you know, one client only sees their stuff?
Yes.
Okay. Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
and feature that too. Speaking of multi-tenant, eFolder offers a multi-tenant solution on their backups too. So that's a whole other topic. But
right. So David, kind of just a technical question. You were talking a little bit about kind of the hardware specs of the core server you deploy, and David wants to know what kind of OS is required for the core machines. What's the typical like operating system
for AppAssure or
for the AppAssure cores?
It depends. That's another reason we keep it above that 8 server or that 6 or 5 server mark. The AppAssure it's pretty heavy on the CPU and memory side. We're usually doing dual processor, usually a minimum of 12 gig of memory. That's for greater than 5 servers, because what you want to do is you want to be able to turn that server up in case of a failure on that server. So that's the reason we put 12 gig in. Now, on the largest scenarios, we've got some of 24, 32, 48 gig. That's one of the larger ones. But usually as a minimum, 5 servers, I put 12 gig in there. It may be a little overkill, but I think the recommended is 8 gig from AppAssure, 8 gig of memory, dual core proc.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, we're just about out of time. So I want to thank Neil Hawkins from Lanair Group for joining us today, and for all the partners who have taken the time to join us. Hopefully this was educational for you, and we look forward to seeing you on a future eFolder webinar. Neil, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Okay, and this is Ted Holsey signing off for eFolder. Take care now.